Hello, Mishpocha, it's Courtney, America's Jewish mother. Welcome back to my channel. I am here today with a wrap-up and ranking of the books that I read in January. So, in some ways, January was actually a very good reading month for me. First of all, I finished 10 books, which I thought was pretty impressive, especially considering that I was putting together my pre-tenure portfolio, which was extremely stressful at the time, and that took up a lot of my time. It was also impressive because one of the books that I read in January was Dr. Zhivago, and this edition is almost 600 pages, and Kelly of Books I'm Not Reading got me to read this whole book in a period of, I think, about 3 weeks, so that was super impressive. You know, much less I finished other books aside from just this one, so yeah, that was all pretty exciting. So I'm just gonna go ahead and rank these, and as usual, I ranked them in the order of least enjoyed to most enjoyed, so even though I did finish 10 books in January and I was pretty happy about that, several of them were not great books. I had a higher than usual number of 2 and 2.5 star reads, which was kind of a bummer, especially considering that, you know, it's the first reading month of the year, but you know what, I feel like it can only go up from here, so I don't think it can get too much worse. So, alright, so my least favorite book of the month should come as no surprise to anyone. It was Sylvia Plath's Ariel, and again, I've already done a full review about this book and the things I don't like about it, so I will link that down below, and I'm not going to say anything else about it here. 2 stars. In 9th place, and I don't have this book here with me because I borrowed it from the library and had to return it already, but in 9th place is Amy Bloom's Come to Me. I also gave this short story collection 2 stars. I just found the stories sordid and pointless. And yeah, that's pretty much it, honestly. In the 8th place is Dr. Zhivago by Boris Pasternak, which I ended up giving 2.5 stars. I'm gonna link down below Kelly's review of this book, Kelly of Books I'm Not Reading, because we did this as a buddy read, and she really, I mean, she pretty much encapsulates in her review of this book everything that I would want to say about it, with the exception that I will also add here that Boris Pasternak himself was Jewish, but was very secular, and it seems like a lot of, not maybe a lot, but some of the characters in this book, especially some of the main characters, are parroting what I would consider some seriously internalized anti-Semitism on the part of Boris Pasternak, and I'm a little disturbed that this book is apparently taught as a standard in the junior year of high school in Russia, because I feel pretty confident that there's not a lot of critical interrogation of the internalized anti-Semitism that we see at play here. It's a lot of, oh, things are terrible that, you know, things are terrible that are happening to the Jews, but they're also kind of bringing it on themselves. It's like stuff like that. So that's really the only thing I would add on top of what Kelly has already said in her review elsewhere, which again I will link down below because it's an excellent review and pretty much encapsulates, aside from the anti-Semitism, everything else I would say about this book. So 2.5 stars. In 7th place, I also do not have this book here with me because I read it as an ebook, but this was Susie Yang's White Ivy. I also gave this book 2.5 stars, so of the books that I gave 2 or 2.5 stars to, this one was the least personally offensive to me of the bunch. And yeah, but also there just really was not a lot that happened. There wasn't a lot of character growth or development. Long stretches of the book, especially in the middle, were quite boring and nothing happened. And the ending of the book, in some ways, you saw one of the things coming from a mile away, and then the other thing that gets revealed at the end of the book, you were like, wait, what? That came out of left field. So very uneven reading experience for me, and again, the middle was quite boring, so 2.5 stars. Okay, in 6th place, and again, I also do not have this here with me because I read it as an ebook, but in 6th place was Thomas Hardy's Return of the Native. I ended up giving this 3 stars. Definitely not my favorite Hardy book that I've read so far. So I've read Test of the D'Urbervilles, Jude the Obscure, Mayor of Casterbridge, and now Return of the Native, and I would definitely say that Return of the Native is my least favorite so far. The story just took a really long time to get off the ground, and the characters were kind of irritating. And, you know, some more interesting things do happen in the second half of the book, but again, it takes a really long time to get there, and I was honestly bored for large stretches, especially in the first half, because I was like, where is this going? But, you know, I will say that at least Hardy does do a good job of developing characters, and occasionally he gives some nice insights into human nature or some good zingers and one-liners. So yeah, that was number 6. Number 5 was Daniel Silva's The Secret Servant. This is the 7th book? I think it's the 7th book in the Gabriel Allon series. I ended up giving this 3.25 stars. It was fine. I read it, or I picked it up after the Capitol riots because I wanted, you know, something sort of escapist and familiar. And, you know, I enjoyed it for what it was as far as that's concerned, and it did sort of do its intended job of taking my mind off of that a little bit. But the plot of this was really messy, and there were just way too many characters to keep track of, and there were too many balls in the air. So not Silva's best for me. In the number 4 spot, all right, we're getting into better books now. So the number 4 spot was Grace Paley's short story collection, The Little Disturbances of Man. I gave this 3.5 stars. You know, as with a lot of short story collections, I did not like all of these stories equally. There were some that I thought were better than others. But Grace Paley definitely has a very unique style and voice in her writing, and I think she's worth checking out, even if, you know, again, some of the stories I liked better than others, and probably other people who read this, you know, would feel differently about which stories they liked versus which ones I liked. But, you know, I would recommend it overall. In the number 3 spot, again, I read this as an ebook, so I don't have it here with me, but number 3 was Etaf Rum's A Woman Is No Man, which I read as part of my Arab American Literature project that I'm doing this year. I did a full review of this. I will link it down below. But I did like this book overall, and I gave it 4 stars. And again, full review link down below if you want to hear more of my thoughts on it. Number 2 is Deesha Philyaw's The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. This is a short story collection that I did as a buddy read with Raina of Rainier Books. I gave this 4 stars. I wrapped it up, I think, in my last Friday reads. But yeah, essentially, I thought it was very strong, especially for a debut. I did not love all of the stories, but I did think for the most part, out of 9 stories, 6 out of the 9 I thought were either good to great and, you know, very well crafted overall. Even the ones that I had problems with, I still, you know, enjoyed for the most part. And yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what Deesha Philyaw writes next, because again, this was very strong, I thought, for a debut collection. So that was my second favorite read of the month. And then my favorite read of the month was Kwame Anthony Appiah's The Lies That Bind, Rethinking Identity. I also gave this nonfiction 4 stars. And I think because the top 3 books that I read this month, I all rated 4 stars. You know, I kind of had some trouble figuring out what the rankings were going to be, but ultimately this one took the top spot because I learned more from this book than from the other books in the number 2 and 3 spots. And, you know, I don't think there's necessarily anything super groundbreaking in this book, but I think Appiah makes a good, solid argument for, you know, why these factors that we now think of as integral to one's sense of identity, why that was not always the case, and for why we should maybe not continue to let that be the case. So yeah, this was my favorite read of the month. So yeah, that's everything that I read in the month of January. If you have thoughts about any of these books, I would love to hear them. Please feel free to leave me a comment down below. I would also love to know what your favorite read was in the month of January. So I hope everyone is doing well and staying healthy. I hope you're doing good reading whatever you're reading. Thank you for watching this, and until next time, what did you call your mama?